Yeah, I see a nap in our future.
I'm rocking myself right now.
Yeah. It
Go to
looks
sleep, little Rachel.
I'm hoping it stays smooth.
Yeah.
That last restream one was not quite as like the one your
The
live
one that
stream.
I did. I think
Yeah.
that was my computer, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was part of it.
I need a new computer.
Mm-hmm.
Mine doesn't have enough brain power.
Welcome to the pre-show. We're gonna get started here in just a moment, but
I
do a
was
little bit of a
thinking about computers today because, we use Apple laptops
mm-hmm.
and they're really expensive, but we have another kid going into high school this year.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know, maybe we should invest in some cheap laptops for them because you kind of need it now in school, But
yeah.
we can't get everybody Apple laptops. It's too expensive. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely we'll want to get just like, and they don't really need.
Well, they don't need high power stuff for schoolwork.
Yeah.
So I figured, once they graduate, their graduation present, instead of a car, we could get them a laptop.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper.
I don't think it would come through on the microphone, but my computer's fan is being really loud.
Yeah. You might have too many things open.
I don't,
That's what you always
That's
tell
the
me.
thing. It's like I closed out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But it may be the way, because I set up the audio a little bit differently, so
Yeah.
that might be part of it. But it's all just a big experiment. When I was using, and we're doing this on Restream. Hopefully they're not listening. Sorry, Restream. I used Ecamm Live, which is a different streaming software, and I love it. Granted,
it's very expensive.
I'm using that through Podia, which means Podia is paying for like the nice version of it.
Yeah.
And I get all the bells and whistles and stuff. I haven't messed around with, any of the premium features with Restream. So Restream could be just as
comparable,
good.
Yeah.
But Ecamm's got you don't stream through a website. Like, you actually download their software and
stream through that.
And my computer, like, I'm running all kinds of stuff, and my computer is just silent. So, but I also, again, like, I'm using multiple virtual audio devices at the same time.
Yeah.
So, like, that could have an effect on stuff. We'll see.
It's a lot.
Yeah. All right. Enough shop talk. You ready to jump into today's topic?
Yep. Do we have the chat open though?
We do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we sure do. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to In the Boat with Ben and Rachel. I'm Ben.
And I'm Rachel.
And this podcast exists to address common creator struggles and provide weekly inspiration for your creator journey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you? I'm
doing pretty good.
You had a birthday this week.
I did, yeah. I put out a video too on this channel if you missed it. It's talking about how as you get older, time seems to speed up, and I actually get into a little bit of why that happens and what we might be able to do to slow it down.
What's interesting is when you told me about that, I started reading a book called Enchantment by, I can't remember, I think it's Catherine May. That might be the name. But it is exactly on that topic too, about how we had so much wonder as kids and things like we noticed things a lot more and,
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I was actually going to send it to you and say, hey, you should read this.
Yeah. So spoiler. It's
Sorry. Yeah.
no, it's okay. No, but
spoiler.
it does have to do with new experiences
Mm-hmm.
and how new experiences encode in the brain
Mm-hmm.
and what that does to our perception of time. And so the theory is that when we're younger, obviously we have a lot more new experiences. And so because of that, time seems to go
Stretch
slower.
out. Yeah.
Mhm. But when we're older, we have fewer new experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but definitely check out the video. I'm going to check on something real quick,
Okay.
and I will be right back. We have you want to talk about why our eldest
I mean,
stayed
I don't
home?
even know the full reason, but he wanted to get a video game, Legend of Zelda video game that released today, and so he asked permission to stay home. And, you know, we went ahead and said yes because he's been working hard in his classes and all of that. But I think he was singing in there, which we love to hear, but we're trying to record, so.
Did you mention Tears of the Kingdom?
I didn't know what it was called. I just knew it was a Legend of Zelda thing.
Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Today was the release date, and we went to the store and got 2 copies. One for him and one for the family.
Yeah. He bought his own.
Yeah, he bought his
We
own.
didn't buy one for him and then the family.
Yeah. So, yeah.
He has a job just so he can buy video games. Like that's the only, and food.
Yeah.
Sonic.
Mostly Sonic.
Yeah. Sometimes pizza.
All right. Well, today's topic, actually, so this is kind of a little bit of a segue because we're talking about how there's one kid at home soon, though, in just a couple of weeks. We're going to have all 6
It's
back at home.
actually like a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Give
week
or
and
take.
2 days. Yeah.
And
I'm counting.
right. And there's a lot to be excited about summer. And
Yeah, we do a lot of
having,
fun things.
Yeah, and
in the
having
summer.
everybody at home. But it's also, you know, when you go from having an empty house quiet for 8 hours a day to all of a sudden everybody's at home, that changes the environment.
Mhm.
And we mitigate that a lot with the way that we manage our schedules and stuff. So we kind of tag team in the middle of the day. We have a stretch of time in the middle of the day that's called quiet time, and they're pretty good about, you know, doing their own thing and not really needing much supervision. And obviously that's gotten easier as they've gotten older.
Mhm.
But it's still not the same as having an empty, quiet house
Mhm.
and knowing that, you know, at any moment, like you could go downstairs real quick and nobody's going to stop you to ask you questions, you know, that kind of thing. So I thought it would be, given that that's right around the corner, I thought it would be fun today to kind of talk about that topic and some of the things that we do to navigate those changes and
Yeah.
how we stay creative over the summer.
Yeah.
So,
It's good.
yeah.
All right. Get started. Jump right in.
Yeah. So, I've already kind of mentioned one of the big things we do, and that's the way that we've organized our schedule purposefully is aimed at making space. So when I take over, you know, it's when it's my shift, quote unquote, the goal is, you know, we definitely want to have somebody supervising and kind of directing the kids and stuff like that. But I'm also like the buffer between the kids and Rachel. So she knows she can actually just let go of anything that's happening in the house and just focus on her work.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing is true the other way around. When it's Rachel's shift, I know that I can just focus on my work. And to the degree that either one of us manages the kids, I would say probably for me, it's easier to let go because I know you've got it taken care of. And, there are times like, when things get a little bit rowdy, sometimes I'll be like, maybe I should go downstairs and check on.
I mean, it's usually just kids being rowdy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When I say rowdy, what I mean is there's conflict.
Yeah. Or people are loud and yeah.
Yeah. Like when I can tell someone's having a meltdown, it's hard for me not to feel like, oh, I need to step in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about for you?
I mean, I think it's always in the back of my mind, like, because I tend to pay more attention when I'm on shift. And I think for you sometimes, like, you just don't pay as much attention to them. And so they know that. And there are certain kids in our mix who take huge advantage of that fact. And so in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, oh God, what are they getting into now? But I try really hard to just be like, it's not my problem. I'm not responsible, and just like, let it go. So.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think when it's challenging because it's kind of, in part, it's a personality thing. Mm-hmm. I'm less attentive, but I also tend to, like, my parenting style is a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And they, I would say they don't take advantage in the sense that they're purposefully like, oh, here we go. We can get away with whatever we want. Sometimes it definitely is that. But I think it's really just like when there's more room to roam, they just tend to take up that room.
Well, and I'm just thinking, like, when I have them on my shift, I have a very structured, like, what I do with them. We watch documentaries one day a week, and then, one day a week we kind of work on organization stuff. And so I'm like occupying them, and then they have outdoor time. And they know when they have outdoor time, like, you don't come back in and mess with, things while I'm doing whatever. So it's kind of like, I guess because personality wise, like, I tend to fall more into routines and I like to have structure for them, it helps with the summer stuff.
And so that's actually a great kind of first or second tip, I guess, if we're thinking about like how we trade off and how we make that space for one another.
Yeah.
As like tip number one, I think a really solid tip number two is finding ways to maintain some kind of predictable structure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I do that on my days. I have in the past where, like, I have certain days that we'll go do certain things. I really like to, and this has actually been one of the adaptations that I've made for my own work. Sometimes, like, I will need to or want to work on something, but I'm also in charge, and I'll just get them out of the house and, like, I'll take them to the pool or to the park.
Yeah.
And I can, set up my laptop and, tether my internet from my phone and work that way while they play. And then, like, I'll take a break and run around with them or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of nice too, because it gets them out of the house. And so then, like, it's a little bit easier. And if I'm doing that consistently, like, if that's a part of the schedule and it becomes this predictable thing, and that's what's super helpful for me, because I know that when you're in charge, there are certain things that are going to happen. And it's like, oh, not only is she, like, taking care of them, but I also know what they're doing. I know that they're preoccupied with something. And so I don't even have to, like, spend the mental energy just to kind of keep an ear out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say too, like, I think it kind of depends on our creativity, whether we could actually be productive. Like for me, I would not be able to be productive in a park while my kids are running wild, just because I have a really hard time in summer creating when I'm the one in charge, because I can't fully let go and access, like I can't get into flow at all. So it's really like little like if I need to send an email or something, I can do that sometimes. This last Friday, I was trying to do some of that, and it was like one simple email, and it took me like 45 minutes because people kept like talking to me, and so my brain just, it can't concentrate well whenever there are interruptions. And so so I never do work when I'm
but you're kind of introducing a third tip, which is if you think about the different types of creative work you do and categorize it based on, this is stuff that I could do even if I was, like sitting at the table and the kids were running around, because it's not the kind of work
it's not the deep thinking work. Yeah.
And then knowing how how to categorize different types of work, you can relegate the really deep work to those times when you're not going to have any interruptions. Mm-hmm. And so, and it's, there's some flexibility that goes into that. And that's kind of, you can't, when it comes to, that kind of shift in your creative environment, you can't afford not to have some flexibility.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kids are unpredictable. So like,
right. Yeah.
The thing that I've found is when I'm trying to, like when I was trying to send that email this last Friday and the third kid came and interrupted me, I just felt so frustrated. And it wasn't his fault. It was just like, I was trying to get something done and I kept getting interrupted. And of course they're going to interrupt me when I'm the only parent in charge. And so like, there's a little bit of attitude adjustment that needs to be made as well, where it's like, okay, you might think that it would only take 5 minutes to send this email, but it's probably going to take 45, just to like lower your expectations and not feel quite as frustrated about how long it actually takes.
Yeah. So you keep on kind of leading us down this path. So here's tip number 4.
Lower your expectations.
Adjust your expectations. Not necessarily lower, but adjust your expectations. A lot of what we experience as frustration and being kind of emotionally flooded in certain situations has a lot to do with the expectations that we put on those circumstances. And to be fair, some circumstances deserve higher expectations.
Yeah.
And
also it's okay to feel frustrated and scared,
right,
or angry, and but
yeah, but when you can adjust your expectations, and it's in this specific situation with kids staying at home, it's part of it is kind of about being realistic. It's like, okay, I could expect that I'm not going to have any interruptions and stuff like that, but how realistic is that? Am I just lying to myself? So I think being honest about the situation you're in can help with adjusting and setting expectations.
I would also say, I don't know if you're ready to move on to another tip, but
sure.
I would also say look for places where you can kind of include the kids in what you're doing. And the example I'll give is, this is the reason I started a documentary tradition where we sit and watch a documentary every Tuesday, and that's like research for my books and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I can find things like that to incorporate that will generate ideas, and because you can always generate ideas with kids in the house. So looking for ways, and it teaches them stuff too, which is really helpful,
Yeah, so we've been doing a thing during the summer called the Summer Movie Express. Mm-hmm. Originally, it started out as actually something the theater was putting on, and you'd pay like $1 per ticket to go out to a theater and watch, an old animated movie or something. But we decided a couple of years ago to start doing it at home because we had a bigger TV, At one point we were using a projector,
Yeah, you did.
but I could also
And you
make
can make
like
popcorn.
homemade
Yeah.
popcorn. And we, with all the streaming services we have access to tons of different movies.
Mhm.
So now we just do it at home. We still call it the Summer Movie Express.
Yeah.
But that's also like, I could think of that as research
Yeah.
time, because a lot of what I do with video has to do with storytelling.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm making like kind of comedy sketches or whatever, and so like I can study
Yeah.
dialogue and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah. So another tip I was thinking about was the location. I think this is probably more true for me than it is for you. I tend to wander anyways. I have a desk in the living room where I was sitting there for a long time doing my work. I had a stretch of time where I was sitting at the kitchen table because I liked the taller chairs.
Mm-hmm.
I have in this studio that we're in right now, the camera's actually mounted to a standing desk, and I've been working here at the standing desk in the studio for the last week. So I tend to roam around, and during the summer, I could come in here, but I can't really do any deep work at the kitchen table. I can't do any deep work in the living room where that desk is. So but I also have a comfy chair up in the room, so like I could take my laptop and go up to the room and use that as a space to work. So it's kind of like, it's one of those thinking outside the box things and asking, okay, where could I carve out space for myself consistently?
Mm-hmm.
And for this season where my normal environment is interrupted, how could I set up routines and carve out spaces for myself to do deep work? And you sometimes just have to get a little bit creative.
Yeah. I mean, I do most of my creative work in the room with the door shut.
Yeah.
But
I think because before we converted that space, because that used to be my studio.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of quote unquote my office, and you didn't really even have a space in our room. It was literally just we have I wish it would be fun to like
take them on a tour.
Yeah. So there's this cabinet. What is it?
I call it it's an armoire.
Armoire, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like, up against the wall, but we set it up to where like it has a light in there, and all of you've got a bulletin board and
posters
your laptop and everything. So it's kind of like this office that you can open and shut.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like you didn't really have any other space in there that was yours. So we converted the studio, my studio, when we moved it down here, we converted that space into
My
Rachel's
writing space.
office.
Yeah.
And so like the room is really, it's a great space regardless. It's kind of an evergreen space regardless of what's going on in the house.
Yeah.
You can almost always find some peace and quiet in there. So
Yeah. When it's clean.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep it clean. I'm just going to say.
Mm-hmm.
There are other people who do not.
Yeah. I think probably one of and this gets easier as the kids get older, but one of the more significant things you can do is really sit down and talk to the people that you share a space with about your creative needs.
Mm-hmm.
and explain, get into detail about what that means. So like when you're doing a certain type of work, so for me it's editing. When I'm doing editing work and I've got my headphones on and I'm really trying to get into flow, I need to be able to go long stretches without being interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting really specific about, hey, this is the kind of work I'm doing, this is what I need. And the older the kids get, the more they can understand.
Yeah.
And, appreciate that. And then just like you and I having those conversations, even, and I'll say this, like, you never reach a place where you've created the perfect arrangement. I think it's a conversation you have to expect that you're going to keep revisiting. So it's an ongoing conversation about like the things you need and the things that I need and the compromises and stuff. And so just keeping those lines of communication open is really helpful.
When the kids were really young, I remember that we used to tell, because they didn't quite understand like the importance of leaving us alone for stretches of time so that we could do creative work. But I remember it being a thing where you and I both would go into our room and we would tell them, when this door is shut, you don't come in to whichever parent is in there. And they understood. It was almost like it was like a symbol to them. Like, okay, if the door is open, I can go see whoever's in there. But if it's closed, I need to leave them alone, So that was kind of a helpful thing when they were little. And I'll also say that when they were little, we structured like nap time around the transition time between you and me. And as they grew out of naps, that's what became quiet time. And what quiet time is a time for them to like be by themselves, to do some writing, to do some reading. Sometimes they'll do puzzles or like little workbooks. And that's it's a really helpful time and we've told them this,
and it's in the middle of the day too, like when the
sun is the hottest and we don't want them outside getting burned. And it's just a really helpful time for them to kind of decompress too. Yeah. So, and sometimes they complain about it, but we go over like the benefits, of having a time like that. I mean, I would have loved to have had nap time, and I mean, probably not as a kid, but but as if somebody scheduled nap time and quiet time for me, I'd be like, thank you.
Now, as an adult, if someone was like, in the middle of the day, they're like, okay, for the next 3 hours,
it's like a siesta.
You don't get to work, you don't get to play outside, but you can read, you can draw or color, you can do something.
Oh yeah, drawing and coloring, we do that too.
I would be in heaven. I don't know, it might get old after a few
days.
Well,
and they get excited too, because every summer we kind of make it a tradition to buy them new writing notebooks and to buy them drawing notebooks and to buy them new crayons and stuff if they need that. And then I actually do writing prompts with them every summer, and they do that the whole summer, and then they get to read their compositions if they want to. And it's just, I don't know, it's like a special, they get to be creative too kind of time,
Yeah. So. Our creativity, and we're kind of in this conversation conflating creativity and work. A lot of the work that I do for Podia is very creative in nature. But I also, do some stuff for myself. Most of the work that you do is creative in nature.
Yeah.
And it's something that we do for work. It's something that we do to make an income, but it's also something that we do because it's good for our soul. It's something that
we love
keeps us. Yeah. We enjoy it. Helps us maintain our mental health. It improves how we show up in other areas of our lives. And so it's essential. And I think it's important to think of it that way. Your creativity and the time that you get to express your creativity is essential. It's worth protecting, and it's worth speaking up for. So you might be in a situation where you feel like maybe you can't, or you feel guilty speaking up for yourself, carving out that space for yourself. But I want to encourage you and say that I think other areas of your life are better when you are able to take the time to be creative, and it's worth making sure that you can protect those times.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right. So I didn't keep track. I wish I had actually written this stuff down.
Yeah.
But I'll try to go through and maybe together we can do a quick recap here. So the first one was just making space. We kind of came full circle on that, but it was like, the way that we do that is how we structure our schedule. So we make that space. The second one, oh gosh,
I don't remember.
This is terrible.
What order we put them in. So
yeah, there was kind of this natural progression. This is bad.
I know there was a roaming one or location.
Yeah. And be creative with your locations. Lower your expectations.
Yeah. Incorporate the kids in your research or, other parts.
Yeah. Communicate.
Structure your workflow, like the stuff that doesn't require as much deep
that was work. I think that was number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was all of them. Anyways.
Sorry, we're terrible at recaps. We're going to have to take notes next time.
Yeah. Next time I'm going to have a little notepad over here with me.
Yeah.
So anyways. All right. Well, do you have anything else to add on this topic?
I don't think so.
Summer is coming.
Yeah.
But I think we're ready.
Yeah. I'd say, I guess one of the last tips that I would give is kind of make it a special time. Like we do a summer celebration. The kids know that every Tuesday we're going to sit down and watch a documentary together. They know that every Wednesday you're going to do the movie express. Mm-hmm. They know these things, and it kind of just makes it special, and it makes it, memorable for them too. So, and that, if you can keep them happy that way, that kind of helps out with whether or not they're bothering you. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's like a holiday,
mm-hmm.
Except it lasts for 3 months.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Rachel, if people want to find you online, where can they go?
RachelTolson.com.
I want to call something out real quick. If you're watching this, Rachel's she's been publishing some videos and content related to the first Magnificent Summer. Just 1 second. Sorry. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Just all of a sudden I'm getting choked up. No, I'm just kidding. So she's been publishing content and releasing videos around the first Magnificent Summer that's going to be releasing soon.
Mm-hmm.
And
about 2 weeks.
That's right. And we've got a few other videos that are coming out, but she's doing this to raise awareness for her book and really get the word out. And we would love your help. We've been putting just a lot of thought and work into not just making these marketing videos or whatever, but really helping broaden the conversation around the themes that she covers in her book, and really trying to make something meaningful and helpful. And so in and of themselves, you had a post talking about your first period and how we shouldn't shy away from conversations about that, because young women who are going through that for the first time, a lot of them don't have people they can talk to about it. And
and it creates a shame cycle.
Yeah. And so this post, I think you posted it on Facebook,
Twitter and Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really meant to just open up that conversation and invite other women into the conversation about, their experience with having a first period, and just kind of a way of showing hey, this is a normal thing. It's okay for us to talk about it. And it's not something to feel ashamed, of. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. The video you released this past week had to do with your experiences with anxiety. and some, tips for working through that. And I think you've gotten some feedback on that about how useful that's been.
Yeah, I've had a few who shared it with their kids, which I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want.
And we've got a few more of those coming out. What's my point with telling you all of this? Not only are these great pieces of content just to share in general, but they're also ways that we are trying to get the word out about the First Magnificent Summer. And we would love your help spreading the word about that phenomenal book. I'm super excited. And so one of the things we're doing is if you comment and share, you are entered to win an advanced reader copy. You want to grab that one down there and I can show them.
Yeah, I'm giving away like 4 of them.
A signed advanced reader copy of The First Magnificent Summer. So if you want one of those, it's simple. You just got to comment and share.
Yeah.
And you'll have several opportunities to do that. So anytime you see a piece of content come from Rachel about The First Magnificent Summer, help us out. We'd appreciate it.
I would.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Quick after show?
Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't sure if that was the after show or...
No, I'm just going to let that be in the regular show. What were we talking about recently that was... I mean, I guess there was the time thing.
Yeah.
Oh, this morning we were talking about medication and side effects and expectations.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
How we want medication to solve all of our problems, but we also have to work at solving those problems ourselves.
Yeah. I might have to do some journaling. So, and really work through some of this. If my voice sounds shaky, it's not because I'm emotional. Like I have the allergies are really getting
emotional, but
no, I don't want.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Those are my shoes.
I just don't want it to be distracting. Yeah. So I started taking ADHD medication, and I think my expectation was I would probably feel different in some ways, or I may not, the dosage may not be right or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like an unknown, but I think I also had some expectations about like the things that are really challenging for me that are related to ADHD. And there are a number of things like it's not as simple, straightforward, like you'll be able to pay attention better or, it's,
but you've also only been taking it for what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while for that to even get in your system.
Right.
Which is why consistency is important.
Right. But what I'm talking about is, like I was talking about how maybe there was kind of this placebo effect in the beginning because I was describing how I felt like
you felt better.
Certain things were easier. And then it was like for a week and a half, I felt super focused and it wasn't just productivity. It was like when I felt before where I would feel like I wanted to put off doing something because it seemed tedious or, like I would procrastinate.
You would just do it.
It was like, oh, I could just do it. And it felt like, oh, I can just dive into this thing and do it. And that lasted for about a week and a half. And then this last week has just felt like back to normal.
Still struggling.
Still struggling. And so, it's challenging because I put in years of work, before getting on medication, coming up with ways to get myself to do things, coming up with ways to kind of mitigate those like strategies to, and it's always been work. Like it's never been one of those things where, oh, okay, now I've got these habits in place, I'm good. It's always been one of those things where it's like I've got to keep the tension on this, and if I let up at all, like all of my systems fall apart and I have an off week. And I think I was expecting to feel, and I did for that first little bit of time, when maybe I was just like, kind of talking myself into, oh, this is how,
a miracle. Yeah.
I felt a sense of relief. And that's what I think I was trying to articulate, was like, I don't have to like force myself.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say,
and well, let me just finish. And I think the thing that I'm feeling upset about is that, and like I'm going to talk to my doctor and see if maybe there needs to be an adjustment, but I just wanted to like be able to take my foot off of the gas a little bit.
I get that. One of the things, and I'm not comparing like anxiety and depression and disordered eating and all of the problems I have to ADHD, but one of the things that I've kind of learned in the years that I've dealt with those is that it's kind of like a fever that is always there. And sometimes it gets to be 109 degrees, and sometimes it goes to like 100 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there are shifts. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. And so what that means for me is that I can't ever not be diligent about, whatever systems I've put in place. I have to keep those systems, and great for the times when it's like super low and I can eat a piece of cake and not feel guilty immediately after,
Yeah.
But the times when it's like, I can't eat anything without feeling gross, and, like those are the times that the systems that I've put in place really serve me,
Yeah. And I don't want to let go of those systems entirely. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that's...
But I get wanting to take your foot off the gas. It's exhausting having to do it all the time.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Like I felt that sense of relief, and I don't know. It's so hard because I've only ever lived in my head.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like for a person without ADHD. Yeah. But I imagine that there's just a little bit more ease.
Oh, for sure.
To certain things.
I mean, if you take it in the mental health direction, like a person who doesn't struggle with disordered eating probably gets a lot of joy out of food. I don't know that I've ever gotten joy out of food.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, for sure, somebody who doesn't have what you have. Like, I mean, we've talked about this with anxiety. I'm like, what would it be like to not immediately go to the worst case scenario? Because you're always like, oh, I'm sure it's fine, it can be fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't even know what that's like.
And I should definitely, like, I have a lot of things to feel grateful for in terms of my...
Well, I'm not trying to make you feel grateful, but...
Well, no, I'm saying, but yeah.
I think you do need to journal about it, though. I think that would help. I'm
still processing through it. And so this is not necessarily the best venue, but I think it's, I don't know. I hope it's useful in the sense that I'm trying to describe and articulate something I think some people experience when they're trying to help. Like and that's really what I was thinking about medication as, is like, I work really hard, and it would just be nice to have a little bit of help.
Yeah.
And,
well, and it should be giving you a little bit of help. So
yeah,
it could be a medication thing.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of that experiment,
Yeah.
trying to dial it in. So yeah, it's
I
really,
mean, I've talked to my therapist about the narratives that because I've read a lot of narratives about depression, about disordered eating, about anxiety, where, you go to therapy and you do cognitive behavioral therapy and you get all these tools and then it's gone. And she was like, that is not the experience of like 95% of people who struggle with, like, it's just always there. And you either turn it down with your strategies or it like goes out the window, So that's been helpful for me, just thinking like, this is something that I'm always going to deal with. And I just have to figure out how to make it work for me, So.
Yeah. And then there's the whole other side of it too. That's like, one, it's, if you've been living with it for a while, it kind of becomes a part of who you are. It's like part of your personality.
Yeah.
And then there also, especially like specifically for ADHD, there are different schools of thought about how to think about it, but there are a lot of neuroscientists who say it's actually healthier to not think about it as a disorder, but to think about it as a different way for your brain to work, and that the struggle you feel has less to do with you being insufficient and more to do with the environment not being shaped for people who have ADHD.
Yeah, that's true for people with autism. It's true for people with mental health disorders,
Yeah.
That the world is not set up for all of that.
And that's a journey I have yet to really be serious about, which is accepting myself and not feeling guilty or ashamed for the way my brain works.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Hey, you know what? People who had anxiety in ancient times probably kept everybody alive because they imagined every worst case scenario that would happen.
Yeah. So thank you, anxious people.
They were the ones who were like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the question too, is the relief I'm looking for, am I looking for it in the wrong place? Yeah. So maybe it needs to come from.
Well, there's your journal question right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that got kind of deep, but if you're still with us, thanks for listening.
Yep.
This has been a therapy session with Ben and Rachel.
It's our specialty.
That's right. And we will see you next time.